All right, thanks for joining me on this Zoom call, and I'm going to get started. My name is Dave MacArthur, and just before I get started, I want to put the disclaimer up here that we're not going to make any claims around our nutritional supplements curing any illnesses or diseases. And I just want to let people know what my intentions are and what motivates me. First and foremost, I want to put the things that I believe God would be pleased to see me doing. And I find that the more I can do that on a regular basis and the more that I can pack my day with those kinds of things, the happier I am and the more longevity and enthusiasm I have. And so I've been doing this for over 12 years now, and I'm not slowing down. If anything, I'm speeding up. There's a lot of work to do. Number two is I imagine the possibilities of good that can happen for other people because I share this information, which has so dramatically impacted my life because somebody shared with me and my family. So really that's been my mission for the last 12 plus years. And like I said, I don't see any slowing down in my future. If anything, we're speeding up. So what I share is with the intention that it's going to teach you something that you're not already implementing in your life. Otherwise, it would just be a waste of my time and your time. I really want to get principles and knowledge across to people where they can start making different decisions, which then will hopefully move their lives forward in a more magnificent way. It was 12 years ago now. I was introduced to the company and the products. We were at an expo, and I was really looking for something. I was at a point in my life where my energy, my weight, it was like about as worse as it's ever been. I was very athletic. I took second place in wrestling in California as a junior in high school. So I was very fit. But I always did have a problem with energy. And as I got older, right here, I was 36 years old right here when I was introduced back in 2005. And I was just feeling like I was in survival mode. And it was really, really bad. It wasn't a good deal. And I'm not going to go into great length on that, but it was just, I was not in a good place. And I was praying for God to either help me find a solution or to take my life. And I meant it with both of them. I couldn't see myself going on. I'd already been suffering like this for about 4 years. And at this time, I was exercising and dieting when we found these products. It was probably about the fourth time that I'd been trying to get back into that shape. And I would ride my bike to work and back. It was 100 miles every 5 days. I was running stadiums at the college football field, and I was working out, and I was eating right. I mean, I had salad with lemons squeezed over it, tuna right out of the can, and Quaker oatmeal, just raw oatmeal with hot water in it. And, and a few other things here and there, but I wasn't eating the things that were unhealthy for me, and it wasn't working. Just bottom line, it wasn't working. I wasn't losing any weight, and I was getting even more tired and fatigued. So that's when we found the products, and my wife actually won them in a drawing. I took the guy's card and threw it away, but my wife really felt inspired, and she entered a drawing. We won the products, and the guy wanted to prove to me how incredible the nutrition was. He says, don't exercise. Over 80% of your results comes from your nutrition anyways, and food out there and even supplements are just garbage nowadays. Watch what happens when you put this in your body. So take a picture. Don't exercise for the first program, which went a month, and then you can exercise as much as you want after that. And so I released 27 pounds in 25 days. I felt amazing. I haven't had a soda or a coffee in over 12 years. I wake up I don't even have an alarm clock really. I wake up about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And it's been like that since I've been on the products. And I could go late at night, and I have a very rigorous schedule doing over 2,000 meetings traveling around the country. I stayed on the products, of course, because they're not a diet program. It was a lifestyle. And I felt amazing. I didn't ever not want to feel that way anymore. And so I stayed on the products, and I started working out. Got back to my high school weight. I released 53 pounds in 8 weeks. But that picture right there is actually about 4.5 months from the first picture. And it was very stark contrast of what I was doing without this nutrition compared to what I did just adding the nutrition. And I wasn't working out as hard here as I was here. So I didn't know and understand the science behind what happened. I felt it and I experienced it, and I immediately fell in love with it. Now, at this point, I could say that the reason I was born was to do this. Impacted a lot of people's lives over the last 12 years. Directly and indirectly, almost 300,000 people. So In 2009, we were introduced to a geneticist who partnered up with our company. And then in 2011, this product was released. And after being on it for about 5 years, it took me back to my junior in high school wrestling weight, just adding this to what I was already putting in my body. And so I want to hold a magnifying glass over this. This is taking us into a whole new era. I'm teaching things, definitely people about the human anatomy and parameters and dynamics of the human body that they don't even know about. And it's been very fulfilling to be able to pioneer this information and then to support that anatomy in a way that it never has before. We truly are pioneering something here. So I'll hold the magnifying glass over that and show you the science behind it. I'll start out with the first couple slides of these products here. They're essential. I would say this one right here is the single greatest one thing that anybody could put in their body by a long shot. Nothing even comes close. And it's very simple. So we'll go through that. I'm going to spend most of the presentation on this. But just as far as the nutrition goes, our food is garbage. You put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. And unfortunately, most supplements are the same way. And even when we're going to eat healthy food, and organic doesn't mean that it's minerally dense. And they can still spray pesticides on organic, even USDA certified organic, just not as much. So a lot of people, that's the best you could do if you're going to put forth an effort to eat produce. USDA certified organic, if you're not growing your own, would be the best, but it still falls short. In 1953, this is a UCLA study. 1 bowl of spinach gave you enough iron for a week. 2007 takes 51 bowls of spinach to get the same amount of iron. This is the U.S. Department of Agriculture showing the decline of minerals in the soil. And it was because we started spraying pesticides and different herbicides, fungicides, and it sterilized the soil, which produces the minerals. It breaks down the inorganic minerals and turns them into water soluble. Well, we sterilized and killed that bacterial system. So as you continue to grow foods that are pulling the minerals out of the ground, they're not being replenished. And so you're seeing the decline of minerals in our foods and then disease as a result. And this is Senate Document 264 that just says nobody can eat enough fruits and vegetables and grains to supply their body with the minerals it needs for perfect health, because it's just not in our food anymore. Food Matters is a great documentary, Food Inc., King Corn. Food Matters talks about, you have to supplement. And then, you got to choose your supplements wisely because not all supplements are created equally. What John Anderson, he's a nutritional formulator. And I'm sorry, and what we're looking at here is the pH scale as well. So this would be alkaline up here and this is acidic. You want to be right in that 7.0 to 7.5 to be at homeostasis, meaning your body is getting all the minerals and nutrients it needs. You need about 90 nutrients at every meal, and they need to be assimilated. 60 of those are minerals, and that's the key. That's really the cornerstone to our health is minerals, and they're missing. And so most people are going to be below 7 on their pH. If you tested your pH, most people will be below 7, which creates an acidic environment called acidosis, which leads to degenerative issues. They know that cancer and diseases won't exist up here around this 7. Cancer can't exist in a body that is that alkaline. Cancerous cells thrive in an acidic environment, and they feed off of glucose. All right, so John Anderson's been formulating for over 40 years now, formulated for over 600 companies. He's known as the Mineral Man by his colleagues because of his proprietary work with minerals and also enzymatic processes. And John, formulating for over 600 companies, he retired as a private label manufacturer in 2000, and in 2002 started his own company because the compromise that was taking place with his formulations that companies hired him to formulate, they would lessen the quality. And he says there's not one instance where they weren't compromised. He said every single company did it with every single formulation. He said it was pretty frustrating. He said, I got some good products to market, but not what I knew I could. So he started his own company called Isagenesis in 2002. And he said, I'll have people looking better and feeling better in 3 to 5 days, guaranteed. And there's a 30-day unconditional money-back guarantee. So this shake right here, it has all of the minerals and trace minerals in it as well. And it's over 240 nutrients in this shake. There's no meal that you could make that would be this nutritionally dense. And the protein, it's not heated up to produce this whey protein. It's It's called undenatured organic whey protein, and we get it out of New Zealand, and it's heated with very low temperatures with lights, and the enzymatic processes are in there. It's the highest amino acid profile in any protein on the planet. You absorb over 90% because of the way John's put it all together. Fiber, soluble and insoluble. I mean, it's a complete meal, and it's better than anything you could make, even if you were shopping at Whole Foods. There's just way too much nutrition in there to try and put that in the food source, but this is in its raw form. That shake is literally a raw food, and that's John Anderson's uncanny ability. Casey, and we have 4 different flavors right now that are in the lineup: chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and then they just made chocolate mint, one of the permanent ones. It was a seasonal one that people just love so much that they decided they're going to make it in the regular lineup. They have some fun different flavors as well throughout the year: cookies and cream, mocha, pumpkin spice, and they're all the same quality, same nutritional value. And we have clinicals around it as well that have ended up in PubMed. So Casey Pluff really nails it here, and she posted this on Facebook, and she says, "This is what I hear a lot. I'm not a shake person. I like whole food. I eat clean. I like to chew my food." She says, "I hear this all the time, and I totally get it, 1,000%. I said the same thing. But do you get the 90 essential nutrients and trace minerals your body requires when you eat whole foods?" And the answer is absolutely not. She said, "I didn't. And I still eat so much food throughout the day. I get to eat nuts, hard-boiled eggs, salads, lean meats, fruits, vegetables, etc., everything in moderation. So do I. I don't feel like I'm deprived of anything. I'm at least getting the nutrition in my body." And here's what she says that I experienced as well. And for me, the proof was when my body lit up. My energy levels to do what I need throughout the day are higher than ever before, and my body has changed, and I feel amazing. And that's what Isagenesis is, and why the company's doing so well is because of the results. So yes, I will drink shakes, and yes, I will eat my food. And thanks to this nutrition and system, it's so much easier to fuel my body with the nutrition it craves to perform at its best. And it's tearing up the professional sports world, and all the people that are getting on it that aren't getting paid to endorse it. There's just, because it is what it is. This is my personal pH level. That was about 11 o'clock in the morning. So high 7s. You want to be in the 7s. Most people are going to be around the 6s. My son at 8 years old is exactly like this as well. So there's my family. We're an Isagenesis family. My daughter and her husband and her 3 kids, they do it full time. My son here is now starting to build the business, but they've been on it for a long time, for 12 years. Here's his daughter drinking it out of the shake, and this is her at about 3. London drinks 2 shakes a day, so does Lucas. My son making one before school, just on his own. My daughter, that's a dancer, got accepted into a school. They only pick 7 people a year in San Francisco for that dance school, and she was one of them. And then my daughter, she writes music and is a musician and composer and singer, and she lives in Hollywood writing music for famous stars that we hear on the radio, and she's publishing her own music as well. So they all have this incredible energy and stamina and just this mental clarity that just you feel like you're the Energizer Bunny, and you can really accomplish a lot when you feel great. Another thing, Isagenesis was recognized as a weight loss company, but it's really not. It's a lifestyle. It's a healthy lifestyle, which is going to produce weight loss. But the biggest part of that weight loss, how did I lose at least 53 pounds in just 8 weeks and have kept that off for over 12 years? It's because of the cleansing and helping the body to eliminate these environmental chemicals, metabolic waste that gets in the body and it's not being eliminated. This study right here, over 300 industrial chemicals are found in newborn babies' umbilical cord blood every single time. So these chemicals, they build up in the body and they're not being eliminated. I mean, a lot of the foods we're eating are so deprived of the fuel that our bodies need to operate those organs properly, and the foods we're eating are part of the problem. So we need to support the body to help eliminate these things naturally. And so we have a full body nutritional cellular cleanse. And I did one yesterday. This is a fat cell, and that's a toxin. So let's just say like a jet fuel molecule. I mean, that's in everybody. It's in Eskimo breast milk, so it's got to be in us. We're not as clean as we are where the Eskimos live. But there's a lot of different chemicals and toxins. But let's just say that's a jet fuel molecule that could do harm to your body. It could cause cancer and mutations in the cells. So your body knows that. And since it's not being eliminated, what they discovered through science in 2005 is that the body harbors those toxins in your fat. And your body will just pump up the fat cells and load more toxins in there and stuff them in there. And so let's say this is a fat cell here. When we go on a diet, we're shrinking our fat cells, but it releases those toxins. So the toxins that were in the fat, keeping your organs safe and your lean tissue, are now being picked up by the cardiovessels and being distributed around. And your body knows that, and so it's going to work to get them back into fat. So at this point, you'll hit a plateau when you're losing weight. What happens is it triggers the liver to produce more fat because these things are roaming around, and the way the body knows how to take care of that is to put them in the fat cells. So when we eat more on our diet, we'll immediately have a weight gain and gain the weight back. Whoops. We'll immediately gain the weight back. I keep hitting that. Sorry. I need to take that link off. Because the body's just going to store those, it's going to blow the fat cells back up and put the toxins back into those fat cells. So that's the yo-yo dieting. Never got rid of the toxins, never lost all the weight, and then you'll gain the weight back because that wasn't addressed. And that's crazy because as much as I was working out and as clean as I was eating, I should have totally been losing weight, but I was at a plateau and still obese. I had been working out for about 2 months right here. I lost 6 pounds in the beginning, but because I had been a mechanic for about 15 years, 6 pounds was enough to release enough toxins in my body to put me into this plateau, the body wanting to put the weight back on. So right here, I couldn't drop any more weight. It was very, very frustrating. So when I got started, I just started this Nutritional Cellular Cleanse, which is just botanicals that go and fortify the organs that get this stuff out, and it works through the urination process. So by cleansing, I released 27 pounds in 25 days with no exercise. And then in 53 pounds in 8 weeks. And then I've maintained that for over 12 years now. So cleansing's become a way of life for me. I do it at least once a week. The bare minimum they say to keep your body free of these toxins is every other month or every other week, so twice a month. But I just feel so much better when I do it every week, so I've chosen to do it that way for the last 12 years. Even through the holidays, I mean, it's the great equalizer. So we have great before and after pictures, and it's not unhealthy weight loss, so you're not going to see the hanging skin, even though she lost over 120 pounds in less than a year. 90 days, and you don't see the hanging skin, and you can see the nutritional value and how the body is producing the brain chemistry. Even for somebody who's almost 70 and somebody who's about to die, doing push-ups in the gym. Here she is, her most recent picture, and she's 67, Nancy is. And doing the same program, this guy put on 14 pounds of muscle on the scale. He was 112 pounds when he started. His name's Everett, and he was 82 years old right there. So, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. This kid couldn't put on weight. I helped teenagers to put on muscle, quite a few actually. This kid put on 15 pounds of lean muscle. But because of the cleansing, he got rid of this toxic fat as well. So he dropped 5% of body fat, all at the same time. My friend Jill Burth released over 130 pounds in a year, no hanging skin. And she's a really good friend. And then also Jeff Beebe's a really good friend. He's 55. He just turned 56. So this gal right here was featured in People magazine as a health coach. Heather was, and that's her. And then this gal is in People magazine right now. She released over 439 pounds is what it says there, 38. We have over 600 people who have lost 100, 200, 300, even 400 pounds. So that's the part that I was introduced to back in 2005. And because it's not a diet, but it's a nutritional program, and it really feeds the body, you're addressing two things: lack of nutrition and toxicity. And those two things were a home run for me. Absolutely changed my life. So much so that I, started promoting it because it helps. I used to change people's oil for a living. Now I get to change their lives, and very profound, very dramatic. Now let me jump into this telomere product and just share with you some of the science and things that I've learned from Dr. Bill Andrews, who's leading the research on this. telomeres are the caps of the chromosomes being depicted in red right here. And they sit in the middle of every cell. So every cell is ran independently by the DNA that's in these chromosomes. So here's the DNA being shown in this depiction. And right here, that's a nucleic bond where those colors come together. So those two hemispheres come together and make that bond right there. It's called a nucleic bond. And the telomeres basically hold that all together on the ends. So if you take a look at this, this is a rope I made after learning from Bill Andrews and being mentored by him. I'm like, people need to see a visual. So I use this in my presentation. I hold it up and pass it around. But this would be a perfect chromosome. And your body has the capacity to maintain perfect chromosomes. But unfortunately, we're not supporting that the body's ability to do that. And we're suppressing it more than we ever have. We sped up the aging and disease process. We now have pre-teenagers with osteoporosis. We have babies being born with type 2 diabetes. And it's the first generation of children that won't live as long as their parents. All of that is a telomere issue. What's happening is the telomere is being compromised. As it starts to shorten, we're damaging the DNA. So you can see where the rope is fraying. That would be the separation of the nucleic bonds. So that'd be like losing software that runs the computer. You're losing software or DNA that runs each individual cell. And they've linked every symptom of aging and every degenerative disease to this. So the longer we're attacking the telomere and not supporting it, the shorter that telomere is going to get. So it looks like we're getting older because we've been alive longer, but that's not the case, because there's some people who are older who look a lot younger and vice versa. It's how long your telomeres are. And that was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2009 in the categories of physiology and medicine. And so just as an example, when you reach, by the time you're a pre-teenager, you've lost a third of your DNA. And now we're seeing some of the degenerative diseases in pre-teenagers, but they don't look old. That's going to happen when it's more on a macro scale. As you've lost more and more DNA, you're going to see the effects of aging. When the telomere reaches 5,000 bases, right around there, it's called the Hayflick limit. That's when your cells will shut down and you'll die, or you'll have a very serious health challenge. Like if it was your eyes, you would be blind. If it was, your bones, you would have very severe osteoporosis at that point. I don't smoke, but they know that smoking and the chemicals that are produced from cigarettes shorten your telomeres faster, so it accelerates it. So somebody who smokes is going to have shorter telomeres in their lung cells than I would, because they're bombarding their cells every day with things that accelerate the telomere shortening, where I'm not. And they're going to end up with the COPD or the lung cancer or the emphysema. Every degenerative disease has been linked to this process. That's what was awarded the Nobel Prize. So whether it's Alzheimer's and dementia, ALS, Parkinson's, lupus, kidney disease, MS, every single one of them. Every single degenerative disease, osteoporosis, all the way down to neuropathy and fungus on your toenail. So, but the body has the ability to prevent this from happening, and it's called telomerase. And Bill Andrews is the geneticist who identified human telomerase in 1994. And what telomerase does is it actually protects your telomeres and does the repairing when there's any damage that's done. But we are so far away from doing that, and we're worse at doing that than we've ever been. They said that pre-teenagers, their telomeres are 10 years shorter than they used to be just in recent decades. So we're suppressing telomerase more than we ever have at even just slowing down the aging and disease process. But it really could go the other way, and this is what this presentation is all about, is what's developed that people don't know about. So this is Bill Andrews here. I was mentored by Bill, and I've been lecturing all over the world, over 2,000 presentations. I've done doctor symposiums, dentists, pharmacists, and then groups of all shapes and sizes and backgrounds. And so I asked Bill just to do a little endorsement as I was meeting with the professionals, so that they would know that I wasn't just taking this and being a rogue and had some kind of agenda. So here's a short little video.
Dave MacArthur.
I'm Bill Andrews.
And I wanted to introduce this video to you. I've collaborated with Bill Andrews and been lecturing around the country about his research and Product B. And Bill Andrews actually discovered the human telomerase gene back in 1994. He was featured in Popular Science as the man who would stop time. So, Bill, what would you like to say?
Well, I've listened to Dave speak many times on Product B, and I endorse everything he has to say. So I invite you to come listen to Dave MacArthur speak about Product B.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
I was really fascinated when I met Bill Andrews back in 2009, and we didn't even have a product then. And he's just had me ever since hello, and I haven't slowed down ever since. And it's been great. I put this presentation together, and when he saw it, he says, that's the best presentation I've ever seen to help such a complicated research to easily be understood. So it's been great working with Bill. So just in kind of a synopsis here, a brief overview. As our chromosomes get shorter and shorter, it damages more and more DNA, which has been led to every symptom of aging and disease. So if this guy's telomeres would stay like this in his chromosomes, he would not look like this at all. He would actually maintain the same physical structure as like about a 25-year-old if they were to maintain their perfect integrity. So that's, again, what was awarded the Nobel Prize, is linking that process. So they finally found the ticking time bomb within the human body. And so what these researchers knew, and it was a small group of researchers, and Bill was one of those who was leading the way. And when he identified human telomerase, the reason he was looking for it in the first place was the reproductive cells maintain perfect integrity year after year, decade after decade. So the chromosomes and the DNA that are running the reproductive cells that procreate new life were maintaining perfect integrity. And they could see that under a microscope, but nobody could explain exactly how that was working until Bill did in 1994. So by 1990, that's how a young baby comes out of an older person who has aged. My mom was almost 50 when she had my youngest sister, Melissa. So if Melissa had inherited 50-year-old genes, then Melissa would have been born 50 years old as well. But she didn't. She inherited perfect genes from my parents. So right there, the layperson should understand that, and they can't deny that a young baby is inheriting cells that are perfect in an older person that aren't aging. So they call these immortal cells. That's the nickname for them, because they're not aging and diseasing. This is aging and diseasing right here, and these are not doing that. So Bill, once he identified the human telomerase, he invented the equipment, about 32 different pieces of equipment. And he started working with skin cells to try and induce the telomerase to where it would repair like the reproductive cells are. And in 1997, he did it, and he got Inventor of the Year runner-up for that. What happened in the Petri dish with the cells, once they activated it successfully, the cells started repairing themselves right in front of their eyes in the Petri dish. And then once they repaired all the way back to perfect integrity, they maintained that integrity with cell division after cell division. They said there was no limit to how many times a skin cell would divide in a Petri dish now. It didn't reach senescence anymore. There was no more death of the cell. And again, that was a big deal, but a very controlled environment, and not much known about really what that meant. It was just unfolding. But if that was to happen in this guy, we would be literally turning back the clock with his DNA, and he would go back to where he was when the DNA was in full integrity. Prior to that,
and now eternal.
Whoops, sorry about that. I wasn't expecting that. Prior to that, they were working with plants and watching telomerase work in plants. But then, riding on the heels of Bill's research, Harvard did it in mice, and this is where it really started to take off.
And now eternal youth. Is it in a cage around the corner? News tonight of a breakthrough for some pioneering mice. But we always wonder, what does a fountain of youth for rodents reveal for humans? Here's Sharon Alfonsi reporting.
I feel tremendous.
In the movie Cocoon, it's a swimming pool that turns back the clock for a group of senior citizens. But now researchers have found a way not just to stop, but reverse the aging process. The key is something called a telomere. We all have them. They're the tips or caps of your chromosome, seen here in yellow. This is what it looks like in a young adult. But as you grow older, the telomeres become damaged and frayed, and as they stop working, we start aging, experiencing things like hearing and memory loss. Scientists took mice who were prematurely aged, added an enzyme, and essentially turned their telomeres back on. You can see it before the enzyme, after.
Their brain function improved, their fertility was restored. It was a remarkable reversal of the aging process.
Look at this picture. The mouse on the right has bad skin, gray hair, and is balding. but the one on the left had its telomeres flipped back on.
And you could see that essentially you now have a dark coat color, that the hair is restored, that the coat has a nice healthy sheen to it.
Even more dramatic, the change in brain size. This is before. The mice had 75% of a normal brain, like a patient with severe Alzheimer's. But after the telomeres were reactivated, the brain returns to normal size.
So that's where all the excitement started, because they saw the DNA repairing itself in the mice. And prior to that, they didn't know DNA could repair itself. And so they saw the complete reversal of all the physical effects of the mice. And that was a big deal. Mice are mammals, and so are we. And it was less of a controlled environment because they were living mice, living mammals. Their bones grew back, their skin and their hair, their cardiovascular system, their glucose levels leveled out. I mean, it was a complete reversal of the aging process, like Dr. Ronald DePino said. Now, that showed what the possibilities were now. Telomerase can be supported to rebuild the DNA in a mammal. So it went from the plants to the human skin cells to the mice. And during this whole time, Bill has been looking for compounds that would induce the telomerase in the skin cells in a petri dish that you and I could consume. And after 304,000 tests over a decade and $30 million, they found 8, but they were too toxic of chemicals. They could not find a natural holistic compound that would do that. So these red lines are a representation of it growing the telomere back in the skin cells in the petri dish. But again, all of these were too toxic. So the reason I was able to become privy to this right here in the beginning stages of all this, where we're pioneering it and making history, is because I was already with Isagenesis working with John. I know Peter Greenlaw very well, and he's the one that introduced Bill to John Anderson. And as soon as John Anderson, the nutritional formulator, started to learn about telomeres and telomerase from Bill, John said, wow, this is making me more excited than I've ever been. I feel very optimistic with the way that I know how to formulate. I feel very optimistic. And he said, I've never been more excited. I would have formulated for these a long time ago. I just didn't know all of this about it. So there's a lot more that goes into it, but I'm not going to take the time to lay that out right here. Just know that these two were brought together. I call it a divine connection on the level that these guys play. Peter Greenlaw is being recognized for getting them to come together. And John started formulating based on what he learned from Bill, and started sending those formulations over to Bill's lab where he could test them in vitro. And that's what happened. And here's what Bill said about it in an interview.
We'd seen for natural products, and we were pretty excited. It was the 11th compound we tested out of the first 15 samples that John Anderson sent us, and it was a hit. So we use the term hit in science a lot. So when we screen a lot of samples, we'll screen like thousands of samples at a time. But, I have to confess, at first we thought, wow, was he extremely lucky? Because we thought, how could he only be asking us to screen 15 samples? After screening thousands without a hit, we need a lot more samples than 15 if we're expecting to get a hit. But he got a hit. So he sends us another 15, and we get another hit.
So real quickly here, once John started sending formulations over, the first batch had 15 compounds, and they tested it at number 11 was a hit. It actually induced the telomerase in the skin cells in vitro. He just assumed he was lucky. I mean, what are the odds? But then he did it with another 15. Within 120 compounds, John got those, a total of 7. And the longer the red line, the more effective. So just think of it as a tug of war. And the more red lines, the more we're going to be winning the tug of war against the environment and the lack of nutritional support. They ended up finding 12 hits, and they released the product, and we started seeing results immediately. In myself, Bill Andrews, John Anderson, Peter Greenlaw. Then I did a presentation in Vegas at a doctor's office, and that's where it just took off. The results have been driving this for the last 6 years, to where I've done over 2,000 presentations in 6 years. The product has continued to get better. That's the commitment. And the first thing that Bill wanted to know was, how is John getting these compounds to do this? Because they tried these compounds over here with no success. And John said, that's proprietary, and nobody will ever figure out how I formulate. I formulate it like this, this is what I do. And it goes into all my products, this type of formulating. But it's going to remain proprietary, and we're going to be committed to improving the quality of this product and keeping the price low. Absolutely no compromise. And that's exactly what this company is. That's their integrity, and that is what they've done. A second generation came out where it was improved with more hits. And then on the third generation, I got a call from Bill saying, get a group together in Vegas. I'm going to come and explain to you guys what just happened. John did something that I said would be impossible. He found 2 hits from a natural botanical that basically went off the charts. And this first hits right here, Bill said moved his lab forward 10 to 12 years of where they thought they would be. And that we are leading the way, and you look back and there's nobody in second place. He's a ultra marathon runner, and he says, we just crossed the finish line in the race to telomeres, and you look back to see who's in second place, there's nobody, there's not even a visual. And the products just continue to improve from this third generation to a fourth generation. I lost count, somewhere around 26 different compounds, 26 different hits. And the ones that were found after this were bigger than these 2 right here. So we're taking fourth generation right now. It's all natural. This is just a pop-up lid. There's 120 vegan gel caps in here. It dissolves very quickly with a delivery system inside it that gets the products or the ingredients assimilated and go to where they need to get to. You do 4 a day. So that's a 1-month supply right there. 120 capsules, 4 a day, 2 in the morning and 2 at night. So let me give you some observationals here, and then we'll finish up. Like I said, Bill and Molly are ultra marathon runners. This is his wife right here. She ran this race 2 years earlier and didn't even get to the finish line. It's in the Himalayas. It goes from 13,000 feet to 18, back to 14, and back to 18, and back down. Only 6 people have ever made it to the finish line. They give you 60 hours to get there, and it's 138 miles long. So you never stop running. You just run continuously, morning through the night, until you get to the finish line, and only 6 people have done it. So she tried it 2 years earlier and didn't even get to the finish line. And then she gets on this product, and a year later, she decides she's going to run it again. And she's the first female and the 7th person to cross the finish line. And she said the product had everything to do with it. Bill did it a year later, being on the product for over a year. He's the oldest person to complete it now, and he did it in just over 50 hours. He said there were runners in their 20s that didn't even get past the first peak. And he posted on Facebook. I mean, he's been in all kinds of talk shows and interviews, and he's been talking about the product quite a bit. He said that he's breaking records he set back when he was 40 years old, and one of them he beat by almost an hour, same exact race. And he's calling it a phenomenon as well. All the results that he's getting reported back directly to him, he says, I've never seen anything like it. It's a phenomenon. This is Kathy. She's a friend of mine, and Emily was trying to get some validation on her pictures because this doesn't look like the same 2 people. And Emily's friends wouldn't believe her. So Kathy said, hello, these pictures are in fact of me. This one here is at Fitness America in Las Vegas at 69 years old. I just turned 70 in May. And she talks about using the nutrition that I talked about in the beginning, and then the Isagenesis. And then she says, I really do feel like I'm aging backwards. What else could I possibly give the credit to? Thank you, John Anderson and Bill Andrews. This is her most recent pictures. So she's 70 right there on the right, and just doing amazing. This is happening in my world all over the place. This is not isolated cases. I've taken out a lot of I just keep rotating different things, and I apologize that I'm not going to be able to show all of the pictures that I have. It just goes too long. But this is a regular occurrence for me. A really dramatic one was a 92-year-old in Bend, Oregon, who said she had been on the product for 4 months, and previous to getting started on the product, she was in a nursing center. She couldn't even take care of herself. And she came up to me before a meeting, and she said, I've been out of that nursing center for 2 months, and I got my driver's license back two weeks ago. And that was at 92. This is Dick Sauter. Amy came to a meeting that I did in Wisconsin for a dentist, and that dentist had me do some other presentations for dentist symposiums. And Amy got her father-in-law on it, and people were trying to convince them that it's time to put him into a nursing home. And they didn't want to do it, and they weren't going to, but she was so grateful to come to the presentation, got him on it. He's 82 here, he's 83 here, he's 85 here, he's 87 right here. He's working out, he drives himself around. I've been back to Minnesota where they live. I'll be there with them in April. He's doing great. Like I said, he just lives a normal life, and he shares his testimony, and he's having a great time. And he looks great. He really is working out. This is Bob Sheridan. He's in the Boxing Hall of Fame. He lives about an hour and a half south of me in Vegas. And he was sent home by the hospital because his cardiovascular system was too weak. They just couldn't do anything, not even put a pacemaker. He wouldn't have sustained that kind of surgery. It was too weak. And my friends Dennis and Sharon Allen get him on the product, and this is him 6 months later being interviewed by Fight News. He went back to work announcing matches. He used to announce for Muhammad Ali. And they said, "You're looking great. We thought we were going to lose you. What happened?" And he talks about getting on the product and everything that happened for him. And here he is at home at 72 years old. He's fully back into work. He's doing, everything, doing galas. They interviewed him again recently, just a few months back, and kind of rehashed where he was at in 2011. And he said, "I feel like I could announce fights for another 20 years." And he's 72 right here, so he'd have been 75, 76, about 77 years old when he said that. I did 2 meetings at his home as well. He was so shocked. Right here, this is 6 months from here to here. And did 2 meetings at his home. This is Karen. She came to a meeting on a Thursday night, bought some pills from somebody that had some there, their own personal ones, and she started taking them. And this is her 2 days later. This is her 3 days later. She had been homebound for about 3 years, and she had already had all the paperwork done for the funeral home. They called in December and asked where her body was because everything was lined up. Like, she was supposed to die around October, November. They called the beginning of December and said, "Where's Karen's body?" And her daughter answered the phone and said, "Well, she's right here in the kitchen. She's baking cookies right now." Karen has just been an amazing story and an amazing promoter for the product because of what it did for her. And she started using the other products. And this is her a month later. This is her 2 months later. She's back to riding horses. She's fully engaged back in life. She's going everywhere all the time. She's always headed somewhere. And you can imagine after 3 years being basically homebound. So when you get started with Isagenesis, they basically have about 60, 70 different products, and they all have the kind of science and quality that these products that I talked to you about. So everything makes a difference. They have these different categories: weight loss, energy, performance, healthy aging, wealth creation. When your food becomes and your supplements become one and merge into one, there's actually a savings. And we save a lot of money by having Isagenesis be our groceries when it comes to our appetite, when it comes to cravings, and so many other variables that come into play, so many different dynamics. Way more productive. Not sick, so I'm never down, never out. And as much as I travel, I didn't catch anything this summer and I fly probably 8 times a month when you're talking round trip. So I'm out there in the middle of it all, and I'm pushing my body to its limits. But it's been very amazing. So on one level or another, people are going to experience this. It's guaranteed. So we just ask you to get back with the person that got you here. There are many ways to get started. I like to get people started just on the Isagenesis. Like, I've got a little group going on right here that just started here in my hometown from my son, and they are having phenomenal results. I mean, like things that if I was to tell you, your brain wouldn't even comprehend it. And they just got started with this, and it's the most dramatic product as far as results go. The other things are essential. I mean, you could get other products when you get in. There's packs that you could buy that come with the Isagenesis. It just depends on how you want to get started, what you want to get started with, maybe what your budget is. But it's a $29 a year membership, and you get all the products the same price I do. So if I wanted to go buy 2 bottles of Isagenesis, I would be paying $150, just like you, even though I do this full time. So that's it. I just am so grateful for the opportunity to be able to share these solutions that we have for people that are working. We are in the top 25 in the industry worldwide, and we've only been around 15 years. And everybody that's in the top 25 have been on average about 43 years. So a lot longer to be able to grow and expand their businesses. The reason we're expanding so quickly is because there's never been the likes of this kind of nutrition. And the deeper you look into the company, the better it gets. And we're attracting people like Dr. Michael Colgan, who has the Colgan Institute in Canada, trains Olympic athletes. He never aligned with the company because he said the deeper I looked at their products and the company, the worse it got. And I just never aligned. And he's on the doctor's advisory board, and he's actually created some products in our company. We've supported him to do that. So it's one of those companies that are going to be a legacy company, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to share that with you. Just get back with the person that got you here, and they will totally take care of you. And let me stop the recording here.